Hope you're all doing well. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode here at the Aquarium Project. I really appreciate you guys' support. So if you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe and drop a comment and all that good stuff. That really helps us out. But yeah, aside from that, that's all the kind of boring housekeeping stuff I did to say basically. So let's get into today's main topic. And today's main topic is on the subject of KH. Which is one I did make. It was actually one of the first videos I made was about KH and why it's important. But basically, I decided I'm a bit better at making videos now. So why? Like to think I am at least. So I wanted to hopefully re-record it, maybe make it a little bit more clear, and also that video kind of flopped. So bring more awareness. So I've got this here, which is my little prop for today. If you're listening on the podcast, obviously not going to be able to hear. This is a little KH bottle, KH test bottle, and so this is the API one. I'm sure a lot of brands do them. I like the API one, and I would go as far as to say. So, first off, I recommend everyone should have probably API, but there is other brands, but like a master test kit, testing for the pH, the ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. And I would almost go I would go as far as to saying that a KH test is just as important as the rest of those, especially if you're living in Auckland. Like obviously that's where our shop's based, so a lot of you guys are from the Auckland area, and in Auckland we have very, very low KH, and it causes a lot of problems for our customers. And I think having one of these little test bottles is just as important as all the other stuff. Basically, I'm not going to show you how to test it, but basically you like drop the drops in and like shake it, and it's like a titration, if you remember that from high school. Basically, it changes color to tell you the answer or the number. And basically, if I was to do that on the tap water here, it would change color straight away as soon as the first drop is dropped in. Basically, it's like the softest water you can possibly imagine. And what does that mean, is the basic question that I think is going to be the most important thing that people are going to ask. So having really low KH is known as having really soft water. And then what that means is that your pH isn't going to be as stable. And it's not going to take as much to kind of throw it off. What you'll see a lot, like if you ask a question about pH on a forum or on a Facebook group, you would just get jumped on instantly by a bunch of people saying that, oh, don't worry about it, consistency is more important than chasing numbers and that, and kind of take the piss out of you. But that misses the very obvious fact of what if it's not consistent. And tap water in Auckland is not consistent in that it's consistent what it comes out of the tap, but what will happen to it in your tank is wildly, wildly different. If you have really soft water, your pH is going to drop really low or shoot up really high. And shooting up high is fine if you've got, like, for example, this tank here, the pH in here is like 8.2, and that's fine because it's African cichlids and they like that. But if I was keeping, I don't know, samurai gouramis, they're probably not going to be that happy in a pH of 8.2 because it's shot up real high. And the same goes in the opposite direction. If I had this tank sitting at a pH of 6, things is going to go horribly wrong. And so the scenario that we get quite a lot in our retail store is, what will happen is someone will come in, say, oh yeah, my tank's been set up. What often happens is I put a new piece of driftwood in 2 weeks ago, and since then the cycle's crashed, half my fish have died, everything's gone horribly wrong. And so the reason for that is it's known, but it's not well known within like the average hobbyist that very, very basically driftwood and botanicals like your catappa leaves and that makes the pH go down, and then like limestone, aragonite, coral rock makes the pH go up. But if you've got really soft water like we do in Auckland tap water, if you have just a normal tank with what's called a buffering, which we'll get to in a second, you put a piece of driftwood in and the pH is just going to tank off the charts low. It'll, like, the API test kit goes to 6 and it'll be 6. Like, it's probably lower, but I don't have a lab. As far as a hobby test goes, it's going to be off the charts low. And that causes problems for our customers because what happens is it goes so low that the denitrifying bacteria isn't able to function. They basically go dormant if the pH goes low enough and the ammonia shoots up. Ammonia is less toxic at a low pH, but it's not untoxic, if that makes sense. So you have a bit more wiggle room, but still it's not, it still would be present an issue in your aquarium. So as a result, there's a few things I'd recommend. Again, we've already said it, but I'll say it again. A KH test kit is super, super important. Because if you have a really low KH, your pH is going to be super vulnerable to swings and your fish are going to be vulnerable and it's not going to take much. You might not even be adding driftwood. It might just be that, there's a little bit more organic waste for whatever reason. Some of your plants died, some fish missed some food and now it's stuck down the back, whatever. It could be anything. And that happens and then the pH shoots way up, way down and everything dies. So how do we prevent that? Well, the method for preventing that is what we call buffering. And I mentioned that before, buffering. What is buffering? What is he talking about? He's not talking about loading a YouTube video, is he? No, I am not. Buffering is a method of adding... Oh, I think I missed even telling you what KH is. So KH is like carbonate hardness, which is basically like calcium in the water. That's not the scientifically correct definition, but in terms of a hobbyist knowing what it means, just imagine it's just calcium. What you'll want to do is add more calcium back to the water, and there's a few methods of doing this. There is some, I think Seachem has a product called something buffer. I can't remember what it is. It's like a white jar and it comes with a green label. And there's a lot of stores around, especially in Auckland, that'll sell you this product. Do not buy this product. It's a waste of money. It is the most fiddly thing in the world. You'll hate it. It's not sustainable. It won't work properly. It'll work, but it'll be a massive pain in your ass. Do not buy this product. What you should do, and it's expensive as well. It's like $30 or something. It's crazy expensive. So save your money and buy. You can get crushed oyster shell. Like I sell it. Everyone sells it. Like Animate sells it. All the other shops sell it. It'll cost like $6, $7, something like that for a pouch, like maybe this big. And a pouch this big will be good for at least 250 litre tank. Probably more, but at least. And just add, if you've got real low KH, add some of that to your filter, to the aquarium, somewhere where there's going to be flow going through it. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to dissolve to the point that increases the KH to where it's stable. And then you do a water change, add some more fresh water back in, and it'll bring the KH back up every time. This is, I think, the cheapest and easiest way of doing it. I say dissolve, and a lot of people are like, oh, how often do I need to replace it? Like, maybe every 8 to 10 years, maybe at the most. It dissolves, but it doesn't dissolve fast, at the very least. So chuck some of that in your filter, and it'll keep the problem at bay if it's a problem you've got. The other methods are like coral rock. Like you can throw a little bit of coral rock. You'll need less coral rock. It tends to be a bit more efficient in maintaining the KH, so that'll work. This tank here's got aragonite for a substrate that keeps it up. The aragonite, or like crushed coral, Americans call it, but it's like aragonite sand, is not. It's something I'd only really recommend if you're keeping like African cichlids or something like that. Probably not the best for like a community setup, but yeah, if you're keeping an African tank, just do a aragonite substrate. But yeah, these methods of adding the carbonate hardness back into the water is going to keep everything stable and make it a lot easier to maintain. It's one of those ones where like you don't want to be fiddling with the pH. Like a difference between like say 7.4 and the difference between that and 7.6 is, don't worry about it, it doesn't matter. But you won't want to put African cichlids in acidic water, just as you won't want to put wild bedders in alkaline water. So I think it's one of those ones where it gets a bit oversimplified. Like I'm very much a fan of considering the pH of the fish, what the fish need, what your tank is, but I don't think like fiddling with it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. I think it just has to be more like alkaline It's like, just think of it as like very acidic, slightly acidic, neutral, slightly alkaline, very alkaline. So like that's kind of the ways, the levels I'd think about it as, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. But to summarize, I think this bottle here is super undervalued, particularly in the Auckland fish keeping hobby, but in general, it's a really important parameter to know, but nobody talks about it. So yeah, I'd really recommend getting yourself one, or don't even get one, but just take your water and take a tap water sample and your fish tank sample to your local fish shop and get them to tell you, or like whatever. You don't have to buy it, but know what yours is and know what's going on with it the same way you would for all the other parameters. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I hope it all makes sense for you. That's obviously the most important thing. But I understand this is maybe a little bit more confusing. So if you've got any questions, feel free to let me know. You always know where to find me. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I love you all so much, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.